up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're in the studio with one of my, I would say close to best friend. We would hang out all the time. When I met Shawn the first time, and the guy was like, he was just in my life. I'm like, he's like my brother. Anyway, I'm super stoked to introduce Shawn McVicker. And how I met him was at a real estate club meeting a long time ago. And Shawn has had a crazy roller coaster ride of real estate investing from small town USA to Oklahoma City and doing some huge wholesale deals. I can't keep track, but I for sure at least 10 deals that I have purchased through Shawn, and I think I brokered out several, at least 4 or 5. Anyway, so no more of me or what I think. Here we go. Shawn McVicker. What's up, homie?
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me on the show.
Dude, I'm just stoked. We actually, if you didn't know the little caveat here, Shawn and I actually tried a podcast show with his Mac, and we tried to figure it out, but it just was too much drama. But anyway, so Shawn was the guy that paved the way to help me get to the podcast, and so anyway, all right. So I love your story. I think your story needs to go out to the world of how in the world you came from Woodward, Oklahoma, and you got into real estate. What were you doing in Woodward? You graduated. Okay, first of all, how old are you?
Right now I'm 24.
24. Okay, so graduated high school, started working. What kind of jobs did you have? What were you doing?
You say after high school?
Right after high school. So how'd you get to Oklahoma City?
Yeah, right after high school, I went to college once, for a semester, came back to Woodward, went back to a different school for another semester, came back to Woodward. It's just got that effect on people. They gravitate back. Luckily, I got away. But, what's big in Woodward is the oil field. It's really big out there in western Oklahoma. I did that for a while, various different jobs. The last job I ended up doing, I was driving trucks.
And you have a CDL license?
Yeah.
So you were actually driving trucks, like real big rigs?
Yeah.
Okay, 20 years old, 22, somewhere?
Yeah, I was 21 at the time. As soon as I was of age, I went and got Class A with hazmat, started hauling fuel. Okay,
so then you're a truck driver, and then what?
then I'm like, I've done it. I achieved this goal, and I'm still not happy. I'm working, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, at minimum. I've, making plenty of money, but no time to enjoy it or even see my family, so it was pretty miserable. So, for at least a year, okay, this is where it really, really impacted me. I was out on a location. I'd be there for 4 or 5 days at a time, and I would be in conversations with these guys, and I found myself at a loss for words often. Like I'm becoming illiterate.
Like you couldn't engage them, or there was just negativity, and they're like, life sucks.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of that. But I felt like being there for so long, like 2 years or something. I'd lost my vocabulary, and I started to feel.
So you were influenced,
yeah,
by your surroundings of other truck drivers, and I guess you don't have a lot of big goals as a truck driver. Right?
Oh no.
I mean, it's just get to one point and get back, right?
Yeah,
and get paid.
I just didn't want to be under somebody else. So I, became a truck driver, and I was pretty much on my own.
Independent. Okay.
Yeah, and it was still not that great. But, like I was saying, I was feeling kind of like I'm losing my vocabulary, so
okay.
Obviously I needed to change. Went to Oklahoma City with my mom. She was going to Oklahoma City, so I just went with her. I got a Kindle, and I was like, I need to get educated again.
Cool.
I need to, if I'm going to be out here on these locations, I need to, keep my standards.
So savvy.
Yeah, so
you had downtime, and you're like, I need to read.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where my personal development started.
Sweet.
I didn't really have any idea about real estate or anything like that, so I just started, with personal development. I knew I wanted to be better, so I just started looking at things like, my biggest influence was hanging out with these guys, so I started reading about body language.
Cool.
I wanted to understand people better.
Okay.
And so that's how it started.
All right. So then I know your story, so we'll kind of, you got a hold of an ebook about real estate. What was that book about? Tell me about that book.
That was a really cool book. I've read a lot of ebooks, and this one was very unique in the fact that it was probably 100 pages, and he had case scenarios of 6 or 7 deals he did, and this was how he started, and it was very interesting because he did a wholesale deal, followed by a short sale, followed by a foreclosure, followed by a rehab, followed by, it was just everything in the book. He did one after the other, and it just happened that way. So I got to read his firsthand experience in every type of transaction.
Okay, so who wrote the book? Do you know who? Can you remember?
Yeah, it was a couple of guys, Ryan and Brian. I only remember Ryan's full name. It was Ryan Daler, and they're out of Connecticut. But
okay, so you read this ebook, and it cost you, it was pretty pricey too, right?
Well, it was like $50.
$50 for a 100-page ebook, $2 a page. Normal people wouldn't do that. You're a truck driver with a Kindle, and you buy this ebook. Then what happens?
Man, I stayed up and I read that thing all night, cover to cover.
Well, you're tingling. Like, what was going on in your mind? Like, I can do this. There's hope.
Man, by the end of that, I was on fire. I'd done a couple of hustles in Woodward, just to make some extra cash. I'd buy an iPhone for cheap, sell it for a little bit more. Did that with cars. And this guy was doing that with houses. I was like, this is insane. There's no way.
Did you have any kind of limiting belief? Like, can you do this?
No.
Okay, so you're like, I can do this. If this guy can do it, okay, so then you're dabbling and flipping cars. Okay, so then what? Then what just so you guys know out there, that he's done over like almost 75 transactions of wholesaling. I would say that Shawn McVicker is probably one of the premier or the top wholesaler. He has the sexiest deals with the biggest margins. He doesn't try to milk every deal for 10 grand. He just gets it done. He has probably the most elaborate marketing without TV. Okay, straight grassroots marketing, down and dirty, gets it done. So so how'd you get to the city? Like, how'd you make the move? Like, okay, I read this book, then what?
Well, I had a friend here in the city who introduced me to the ebook. He found it, wanted to read it, but didn't want to pay for it. So
normal. Yeah,
I went ahead and split it with him, and that was my introduction to wholesaling. He said, "Hey, why don't you move to Oklahoma City and let's do this?" He's like, "I'm living in an apartment, but I'm going to buy a house." I'm like, "Okay, you buy a house, I'll move in with you."
And you still live there now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for the 2 months after that point, I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks. He told me about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So while I'm driving the truck, I'll be listening to this stuff. And, of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that lit me on fire. But, this was around March. Come May, he calls me, says, "Hey, we're closing on this house May 9th. I'm like, "You're kidding."
What year was this?
This was 2013.
So we're not that far. 2 years later.
Yeah, this guy's actually buying a house. He's had his job for like 6 months. I'm like, how does a dude get approved for a house? He's had a job for not even 6 months, 5 months and some days.
And how old is he?
He's
young too, right?
Yeah, now he's 25. He was 23 at the time.
Okay. So he's a hustler in his own little. We'll bring Jack on the radio. Let's check one. We'll get him on here.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going. So you went all out. Did you quit your job? Like, what was the defining moment that said, "All right, F you, truck drivers, I'm out"? Did you save up money? Did you have a plan? Or did you free ball it? You just rolled and left Woodward?
I had about $5,000 saved up, which isn't saying a whole lot. I was making about $2,500 every 2 weeks. So
you were having a good time.
Yeah, come the time Jack, said he was closing on his house, I was like, "You tell me the day you close, I'll move up there. We'll see if this goes through."
And you have no regard. Like, you're going to leave your family, or you have 3 siblings, right? 3 sisters. And you're going to leave them, leave your comfort zone, all your little friends, your party people, all that jazz, to move to the city because of an ebook and because of some guy said, "Come with me."
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was looking for something,
to make a difference.
Enough leverage to get me out of that town.
Okay.
And this was it.
All right. So this is your key, your way out.
Yep.
Okay. So then you move up here. And then you go all in. Did you try to go find a day job?
No. It was one deal. I got to do one deal. That was my mantra, do one deal.
Okay, so you've been here for 2 years. You haven't even had a job?
No.
You've been wholesaling for 2 years or close to it. So you got into the city, one deal. So let's talk about your first deal. I think that's always the best deal.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Now, let's go into it. How'd you find it? How'd you get it?
Well, in April, prior to closing on this house, prior to me moving up, we sent our first yellow letter campaign. So
do you know how many did you send
it was
out?
862 letters.
Why that weird number?
Is just the size of the list we managed to pull.
Okay.
We got that from listsource.com, absentees, just what they said to do.
Was it in any area, or are you just random?
Oklahoma County.
Cool.
So, we had no idea what we were getting into. So it was, absentee owners. We sent it to my personal phone number, via Google Voice. And so I was still on the job at the time, walking around the yard, nothing to haul right now. And my phone is melting right now. I'm like, I don't know what to say to these people. I'm answering.
You're just getting calls after calls.
Yeah.
Some good, some bad, some don't. Why are you sending me letters?
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on.
You didn't know. You weren't coach. You didn't know what to say.
I didn't have a clue.
So you're making this up. I'll buy your house. I have no money, no job.
Yeah, I was totally winging it. They call, say, hey, you sent me this letter about my house. You say, oh yeah, were you interested in selling it? I don't know what I'm going to do from here, but tell me all about it.
Also, okay, cool. So you got these calls. So then what?
By this point, I'm in Oklahoma City, hadn't really had a good conversation with the seller up to this point. But, while I'm in Oklahoma City, we're doing follow-ups and stuff like that, going back through these calls. And, I get linked up with one guy out in Florida who's got a house in Oklahoma City, and his son went to prison or jail, something like that. Girlfriend was still in there, getting the kids taken away. Sad situation, and he paid for cash for the house. Since kids are gone, son's gone, girlfriend is still in there. He's like, I have no regard for this house. I do want to sell it. I want to get her out. Can you help me?
Was this the Midwest City one?
No, this was on the south side.
Did Matt buy this one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah, this is Goff.
Cool. All right. So that's another day. Keep going. So you had to step in and orchestrate. Did you get her out?
Yeah, that was an interesting situation. So I spent about 3 weeks off and on the phone with this guy. I called him every few days. We talked for an hour and a half at a time. Probably way too much, but I was always told build rapport, and so I took the rapport to the max. I was like best friends with this guy.
But it was your first deal.
Yep. So
then so you got it under contract. How'd you figure out a price? Were you just winging it?
Well, I knew on the county it was assessed around $32,000. I knew it wasn't in the best of shape, but I knew if I got at least half of county value and maybe a little bit less, it was a good starting point. So
you offered 17? Is it somewhere around there?
Man, I went rock bottom. I was just, I was like 9,000.
You got balls.
And
what did he say?
He's like, oh no! I couldn't do that. I had my mind 12,000. I just couldn't go any lower.
See how quick I was? I was 17. Yeah. So you just made $5,000 on me. Anyway.
That's crazy.
So all right. So he said 12. So then what did you say?
I was like, well, you know what, Mr. Seller, 12. We can probably make that work.
Okay.
I feel really good about the house. I really want to help you out. Let's just go ahead and try and do this for 12.
Okay. So then you sent him a contract?
Yep. I sent him a contract. I got it back about 2 days later, and shortly after that was the Oklahoma City RIA. So I didn't even print up a flyer or anything, but I went there, found two guys who were, not in a group of people. Hey, I got this house. Would you be interested? First guy, yeah, sure. When can I see it? I said, how about tomorrow? He said, okay. I told him 19,000 or something like that.
Got it under 12.
Yeah. Then I go to the second guy. And I'm like, hey, I got this house for sale. Do you want to check it out? He's like, yeah, when can I see it? I'm like, how about tomorrow? He's like, okay, great. How much? I said, 17,000.
So you lowered it yourself?
Yeah.
You were motivated.
I was motivated. I was nervous.
But there was a chick in there too, right? She was still in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So she was supposed to be out after 30 days.
So how'd you show it? Did you show it to the guy?
Yeah.
With the girl in there?
Yeah. It took me 2 weeks to get to that point because my seller said, go over there, talk to her, and she should let you in. So I'm going over there for 2 weeks, almost every day.
Building rapport with her now.
Couldn't get her to answer the phone for the first 2 weeks. Or the door. That I'm going over there, knocking on the window, doing whatever I can. And by that point, I've had about enough of this. So I call that seller and I say, hey man, what can you do? She's not cooperating with me. I get him pretty wound up. And so he just unleashes on her, and by the next day she's ready to give me the grand tour. So once I get the opportunity to get in there with her, of course, build rapport, because she's got to cooperate with me through the rest of this. And on that day, I gave her 30 days because I knew I had somebody interested. I said, 30 days, you got to be out because we're going to be closing. And if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. If you need help moving stuff, let me know. And so I show it to...
two guys or one guy?
Yeah, 2 guys. Show it to one guy first, which was the second guy I spoke to. First guy showed up later, and the other guy had already decided he wanted it. We'd already talked price, and so the other
guy... You make it sound so easy.
Yeah, the other guy just drove off easy, like, okay, so... Okay,
side note, I have known you for only 2 years, wow. But you're very tenacious. I've seen you. There's so many deals that we've chatted about over the couple of years that I've walked away from, and you've continued to persevere. What gives you that drive? How do you? Is it a win? Is it like you're competitive? How'd you fight through that 2 weeks of the girl blowing you off?
Man, it's one, I am very competitive. 2, there in that case, I was pretty motivated.
That was your first deal.
Yeah, that was my do or die. I'm going to prove this business whether this works or not. If this business is legit, I'm going to figure it out right here, right now on this deal.
Cool.
I've got a contract. If I don't get paid on this deal, this stuff, doesn't work. This is my fail. So I'm going through.
Right on. So you did it. So you sold it to this guy, and I remember the deal. So it's a great deal. So your first deal. So then you were on cloud 9. What'd you profit on the deal?
$3,800, $3,816.
So, well, what was the total process? Like a month, 6 weeks?
Yeah, it took about a month, and from the point I first talked to the seller, it was about 2 months.
But you made $4,000, close to $4,000, on your own schedule, on your own time, and then okay, great. So then, you obviously when you got that check, you were on fire.
Oh yeah, man, I hadn't been so excited in my life. I knew at this point, whenever I left the title company with that check, it's like, this is more, this is about a month's pay in the oil field, after taxes. I'm like, I did this myself, with the influence of others, direction and things like that. But the point is, this is scalable. There's no limit to how many, how much, how high. Mm-hmm. This is
true, limited
by me.
And it wasn't easy though, right? I mean, I remember there's some struggles there. The seller, the guy that you were flipping it to, he had some expectations, and he wanted certain things, and you were dancing around him, and then you're dancing around the girl, and then you're dealing with the out-of-state Florida guy too. So you had to, or how do you deal with those 3 different personalities, 3 different areas, 3 different aggressions? Because the investor wants it cheap, wants it now, wants it perfect. The girl's trying to find a place to live. You got to kind of help her relocate her. And the seller wants to get paid right now. How do you orchestrate those 3 things? I know you've done so many deals, over 60, 70 deals now, but how do you manage that now?
Man, it's all, this is majorly a people business, and the biggest thing that I can say is just establish the expectations with each person. Establish them and get them to commit to them. Cool. You've said your expectations, now commit to them. I'm going to commit to mine. We're all out here on the table. I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. I expect you to do what you say you're going to do, and this is going to go smoothly. All
right. So then what? You're on cloud 9, and then, you're kind of like a celebrity here in Oklahoma City. Shawn buys houses. So it was like a great marketing ploy, bandit signs, billboards. I mean, you can't. I remember we used to hang out all the time a year ago or so, and we couldn't go anywhere. Everybody knew you. How'd you come up with this marketing plan? And was it like your idea? Was it like you were in the shower? When did you decide to go all in and said, all right, I got this $4,000? Is that right after that moment? I mean, what has driven you to this point 2 years later, and you're still killing it as a wholesaler? I mean, I know you're doing at least 2 to 4 deals a month, but what was the defining moments that you got the $4,000 check? I'm going to go in. What happened after that?
Yeah, it was largely that first deal. I knew that, you can measure your marketing. It's all numbers. I knew I sent X amount of letters to get X amount of calls to get, these contracts. So I thought, all I've got to do is scale up my marketing, and I can scale up my deals. So I went crazy.
All in. Gambler.
All in.
So you just threw cash into marketing.
Yeah, I even bought this list from some guy in New York. It was bogus. It was like 3,000 names. I only paid a couple $100 for it. It cost me $2,000 to send the mail. Didn't get a single deal, hardly a call. I don't know what went wrong. That was...
So you tried all this stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've...
You even paid a beggar on the side of the road to hold your sign up.
I don't know how you know about that.
I saw him on the corner. Talk about that. How'd that come about?
Man, that's just awesome people. That's one of the things about me is I just keep the best people around me at all times. And I had this real creative girl working with me, and she's like, hey, we've got these scraps from signs, it's long pieces of chloroplast. And she's like, we're just brainstorming, what can we do with these? How can we advertise with these? And she like puts it into a circle, staples it together, throws some cloth straps on it, makes it like a
skirt.
Yeah, it's like a skirt hanging from his shoulders, and she's high-eye going crazy. She's real outgoing, and she gets him all wound up, and they're dancing out there in the median together.
And what'd you pay the guy?
It was like $20 for 2 hours or something like that.
I saw the guy several times.
I couldn't believe how many people actually saw him. People taking pictures and tagging me on Facebook.
Did you get any deals from that?
I wouldn't know.
Or credibility.
So.
I mean, everyone knows you, right?
Yeah.
And everyone knows your reputation, and they're like, if it's a Shawn deal, it's a good deal. I mean, I've even been in rooms where people throw themselves on you, like do me first in the classroom, and almost throwing money at you. How do you handle investors now? I mean, I know that you get really good deals. Like you told me about a deal. I don't want to say it on the radio, but you told me about a really smoking deal yesterday, and I was like, you got to talk to your other partner in that. I was like, I'm ready to jump on that deal, but I got to be cool. How do you deal with the attention that you're getting from these investors? Do you vet them out? Do you talk to me about, you got a hot red deal right now? What's your process? How do you flip this deal?
Man, for the longest time, people coming at me, they want my next deal. Everybody wants to be on the buyer's list. And I didn't really have a buyer's list. I say, give me your information. And, 9 times out of 10, it got lost. So, because I only had a handful of people. No
systems in place.
Yeah, no systems. Yeah, organization, that's a big thing. But I've only recently gotten something set up where I'm actually keeping track of a solid buyer's list and trying to farm it and, actually expand and, offer opportunities to more people, because it's been, pretty generally just these X amount of people. But whenever I get a deal now, I generally know who buys in what areas, what the market's like, what it could possibly sell for. So,
and then do you call them individually? I know a lot of inexperienced wholesalers, they just blast it out there to thousands of people. I'm not saying that's not a bad way to do it, but sometimes I've been following you, and sometimes you do that. Only I guess you didn't get a quick buyer. Do you just call certain people first, like the ones that, like you said, like, I guess this person buys only on the south side, so you call that person first?
Yeah, that's pretty common. And one thing that's happened quite a few times is a few tenacious people just staying in my ear, calling me every couple days, texting me all the time. That's me. Yeah, these people you're one of them. These people just staying right in my ear, and that's what it's about, is being at the forefront of my mind.
Right.
If you say put me on your list, okay, you're in there with 700 other people. But if you go out of your way to be there and be known, of course, it's going to raise your odds.
Okay.
Like I just mentioned, I had one the other day. I got a contract, one day, and same day a guy called me off my sign. He said, hey, I'm from California. I've been coming here, every couple of months, and every time I see your signs for the past 2 years. He's like, I talked to people at the RIA, you got a great reputation, and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So he was at the forefront of my mind. I was like, hey, you know what? I just got this deal. What do you think?
I'm going to call him first.
Yeah.
I've done that. And he bought it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's talk about a crazy deal. Let's talk about moving a house. Okay?
Moving? Oh, man. Okay.
Come on. Bring it to me. We got to bring it on the show here. All right, so I remember you calling me, asking me questions about what to do with this deal, and you already had a formulation plan. So I know this is going to take a little bit of time here, but I think this is crazy, and it had a success story kind of at the end, and you went through a crazy lady during the process. So you want me to try to preface it for you? Let me just try to give a quick. So you got a house. There was a great, awesome 150,000 above house subdivision, right? Each
200 plus.
200 plus. It's a subdivision with houses that are 200,000 and above. And there was one lot left, which was the builder's office that was built on there, but it was on there for a long time.
Yeah, about 18 years.
And how'd you get that lead? Do you remember how you got that?
Yeah, it was from someone I'd met through some networking, Evan Shawley. He was doing 1-800-FAIR offer with somebody that came in off a postcard. He's like, hey, man, can you help me do anything with this?
Okay, so another wholesaler brought this to you and said, heard your reputation, said you can get this done.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so there's a house and a lot, and the deal, I guess you're going to tell about it here in a minute, but you had to move the house. That was the contingency, correct? Mm-hmm. And so go into this deal, the money and everything.
Oh, man. So I got this he put this under contract for about $32,000.
And that's a house and a lot.
House and a lot. I'm like, man, this really needs to be about 20. You know, this is gonna be tough. But we locked it up, and I had been speaking to a private lender. A guy wanted to do some business with me, and this is like, one of the only times I've used private money. But I went ahead and closed on this deal. I was like, I'm gonna figure it out. I know this is gonna take some time. So,
32, right? Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
32. So I borrowed $32,000 from this guy. We closed on it, and I had 6 months to figure something out.
To move a house?
Yeah, my idea was to sell the house to somebody, move it, get it off there, then sell the lot, potentially make...
So what was your pie in the sky?
I thought if we can sell this house thing for $15,000, that'd be awesome. Then we sell the lot for $20,000-$25,000.
Well, that's only $3,000 profit.
What's that?
That's only $3,000 profit.
Well, $25,000 plus $15,000.
40, okay.
40, so I'd make... Ideally, I was thinking about $7,000. And for me, it was...
And it was an easy deal, you thought?
Yeah. Well, I was like, man, this is $200,000 neighborhood. People are going to jump all over this. And I also, really wanted to help this seller. She was a widow, 80 some odd years old, and this was her husband's, leaving behind. So for 6 months, I'm going through numerous strategies with this house. At one point, I'm like, this is going to be my office. It's way out in Midwest City. I'm like, drive out there for about a week. I'm like, this is not working.
Setting up an office, okay.
Yeah. I was like, I need a place. I was like, I'll just try this.
So did you advertise it was for sale, the house?
Oh, yeah. For a long time. I got a couple interested people, but nothing ever came into fruition. And the neighbors started blowing me up, sending letters to the city, calling the city, stuff like that. They knew that it had changed hands, and they're like, all right.
And you were operating an office. And this thing was like a small frame little house with these $200,000 houses around it.
Yeah. It was obvious. It was about 800 square feet. Those are all over 3,000.
And it was a frame house, and these were all brick houses around.
They were all 3-car garage, big, beautiful houses.
So you're rolling in there for a couple of weeks, setting up office.
Didn't even have a driveway. I was parking out in front.
So then they're pissed. They thought that someone would move this house by now and start building.
Yeah.
And you even thought about building too, right?
Yeah, I thought about trying to partner with somebody. I bring the lot, try to do something creative. I exhausted all options on this.
So how long did this go by? So you got this house, and you can't sell it for some weird reason. You can't move it. Now you're having an office in it. You're getting blasted by the city. Get out. The neighbors are jerks. Then what?
Yeah, the city actually took me to court. Cost me like $600 for some fines for grass and for the building. And I had to tell them, I'm working on it. We've got a plan.
Midwest City, come on now. I don't want to get started. All right, keep going.
And I had a lady that was going to do it. She was going to buy it, towards the end. She's all hot to trot. She works with dogs and talking a big talk. I can move it. I got cash. What's the best you can do? She's a big time investor, apparently. I'd never met her before, though. And she started moving some things, prepping it. She took the AC condenser.
Oh, so you sold it to her for what?
Well, I was going to sell it to her for $10,000.
Oh, so you were just getting rid of the house?
Yeah, she was going to just take the house, then I was going to be left with the lot, and I could sell the lot
and get out of this deal.
Yeah, and so we were fighting back and forth with the movers. There's only like 2 in town, and I'm almost positive they work with each other to jack up the prices
because there's only 2 people.
Oh yeah, that was a racket, but.
So so this girl's orchestrating moving in this home, this house.
Yeah, and that's the cool.
And
thing.
you were motivated because you got to do something. You had a private money payment, right? Was it a monthly payment?
I was paying like $480 a month.
All right, and you think you're going to make $7,000, and now you drop the price of the house to get it off your lot. Okay, and this girl unhooks everything, and then you got the 2 sketchy movers. Then what happened?
Well, She ended up not being able to move it out to her place, and therefore bailed on our contract. She kept my AC condenser for her troubles.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Shady. So this girl burned you, basically.
Oh yeah.
She lies to you, says this, and she's kind of in cahoots with the moving people, right? Kind of, or no?
No.
Did they stiff them? She stiffed them too?
Yeah. Yeah. She owed them about $700 because they went over there, set everything up, and she told them that I should pay them because it was my house, though she hired them. So that was...
Man.
Yeah. So that was fun.
That was fun.
So by the end of it,
Did
I'm
you
like...
have like diarrhea anywhere? I mean, you were a little stressed out. I remember this.
Oh yeah, man.
I mean, you were paying a $400 payment. You dropped the price on this property. You don't even have a buyer lined up for the lot, did you?
No, not quite.
Okay, keep going.
But,
this is going to be a story.
Yeah, after that, I talked to this mover so many times. We had a mutual dislike for this woman, and so we built some rapport there on her behalf. And I talked to him. I'm like, hey man, you've got the truck, you got the equipment. What will you give me for this house? You can move it. You've got no fees there. And he's like, oh, $3,000. Long story short, we ended up landing on $5,000.
So this guy, the mover, the racket, just got a nice little 800 square foot crib for $5,000.
Yeah, it was nice. He didn't even have cash. He got me to hold a note on it. Promissory note. So he moved the building off of there. I've got a note for $5,000. Didn't file it. Didn't notarize it.
Didn't close it. I guess you just a piece of paper.
Yeah, just hoping this dude comes through. I've got it.
But you had to move the house. That was your motivation.
Yep. I'm like, worst case scenario, I'm out $5,000 on that, even more so. And I just had that little deal saved in Evernote, just waiting. And
okay, keep going. This gets even better. I didn't even know about that part.
Yeah. So found a buyer for the lot. Really good guy. He had built 2 houses at the time. Taught himself everything he knows. Really cool guy. And the house is actually on the market right now that he built. But
it's built. Oh, so how much did you sell the lot to him to?
Get into that right now. So
okay,
I find this guy, and I tell him, I'm already in the hole. I was like, $22,000, you can have the lot. Mind you, I've got $32,000 into it, and I've got a $5,000 note on the building. So he says, okay. He finds somebody to loan him some money to buy the lot, and so he buys the lot
for $22,000.
For $22,000, I had to flip a couple of houses, come up with $10,000 to make the difference on that. So
to cash out your first private money.
Yeah, just to get him off the books.
And the $400 payment.
Yeah.
So you borrowed $10,000 to not pay $400 anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, then what?
Then he closed on it. He took the lot off my hands. I'm out of that note. I'm $10,000 in the hole, but I've got a $5,000 note. I'm not really counting on.
Right. Has that guy performed at all?
He did.
Cool.
He called me about 7 months later, and he said, hey, I've got some cash. I found a buyer for it. I'm ready to pay you back. But, things are a little tight. What's the best you can do?
Oh, man, that's a gangster move. I've done that before.
Yeah.
So he asked for a reduction.
Yeah, he did.
What was it?
I can't blame the guy. But
he got a $15,000 crib for $5,000 with a reduction. What did you sell it to him for?
I told him $4,500. I was like, you know what, for your troubles, like there were any,
and you want the cash.
I'll give you $500 off because I'll be happy to get anything. I wasn't expecting to get anything at all. I can't believe he called me. So I almost offered him $4,000 because I didn't think he was even going to bring it. But I said $4,500. So we meet up a few days later, and he's got a check for $4,000. At this point, I'm like, I can't believe he's even here. So I didn't even say anything.
So dude bent you over. All right. So anyway, who cares? So you got the $4,000.
Yeah.
So you're down $6,000, right? Total, roughly.
Yeah.
But you learn
plus $480 interest payments for 7 months.
So 7,000 roughly.
Yeah.
Plus a lot of gas and diarrhea.
But the great thing is that the building was moved.
You did it.
That guy made some money. The builder's got another opportunity. And I've since been over there. He's built a big, beautiful, amazing house there. And it was all because, I went through and
you did it.
Paved the way. That's what I really got out of it.
That was your motivation.
Was that.
To prove yourself that you could do this.
Yeah. See, I wanted to see that happen. And this builder did an amazing job. He's got it listed for $260,000 right now.
have we worked out a way if you get a percentage on that deal on the way out?
No.
Man, you got balls of steel, bro. I admire you. I remember when you told me about that deal. I was like, what? Move a house? A lot. Lots are always a gamble. It's what people are willing to pay for it.
Yeah. I remember at one point I called you and I was like, hey, do you have any lots available?
I did.
You know, I was going to try to move it somewhere.
I do. I was like, yeah, I got a great lot on 36 and Youngs. And you drove over there. Mm-hmm. And I was like, we can set up an office there. Man, through this whole debacle, you were going to move a house. You were going to be a builder. You were a wholesaler, a negotiator, and you got taken. Man, and you're still in real estate?
Yeah.
And that was like a year ago, right? A few months ago?
I think we finished it up in November.
Man, that's I call that school of, you just earned your master's degree. I have a lot of stories like that as well where I've lost money, a lot of money, and I used to get pissed, but there's nothing you can do. You can make it right back, right? Then you make it right back on another deal or close to?
Yep.
All right, let's talk about a smoking deal. Some blew you away. I know one time you told me about a deal that you were thinking of a number and they gave you more than you wanted, right? Or something to that effect. Or so think about one. I know you got so many deals, but just think. Let's get one more.
Man, you got one that really comes to mind.
All right, tell me.
It's one, but it's three. So,
South Side?
No, North Side.
Okay.
So it's right off Classen and 41st. This cool little area. This house came up on the MLS.
Ooh.
And, I was just looking for new strategies. So I'm searching the MLS trying to find a deal. This house comes up for 50 some odd thousand. The assessor had it at 90 some odd thousand. So I go ahead, I get a proof of funds and I submit an offer for like 38.
Now you got a proof of funds, but you don't have no bank. You have no money. You have no taxes. So how'd you get a proof of funds letter? Let's pause there. So before you, I remember these days when you call
I knew you were gonna hang me up there, but
anyway, we'll just have you back on the show because you have so many great stories about no job, no nothing, and you actually own today 2 finance deals from a traditional bank, right? Mm-hmm. And some bunch of other, and then this guy rents a property. He's a roommate, and he owns 2 houses with bank loans. And anyway, so you hustled and got a $90,000 proof of funds letter. Okay, so we'll leave that one alone. You submit an offer. They take your offer. Then what?
Well, they didn't take it.
Ooh. I
offered $38,000, and I don't know if we've talked about this before or not, but you offered 39 or 40.
Man, motherfucker! What? I'm getting hammered out there.
Yeah, I ended up getting it for 42 or 43, and I didn't even know it was you until afterwards.
That's all right.
I was like, oh man, I don't know if I even want to talk to him about that.
That's probably why you didn't tell me.
But
chump.
So.
All right, so you get it for 42. I remember this. You guys flipped this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, found somebody to do that. We flipped that to them for, I think we made like 10 or 12 or something like that. And a friend of mine helped them rehab it, and it, skyrocketed the comps in that area. Comps might have been in the hundreds. He got it to 138 or something like that.
It comped out. So you bought 42. How much did you put in it?
35.
So you got like roughly around 77, 35 plus 40, somewhere around there, right? Under 80. Mm-hmm. And then what'd you sell it for?
138.
Oh, on the full comp.
Yeah, I mean they created that comp.
Dang, that's a lot of equity in there, homie.
The cool thing was, what I was getting at is, that house was in between 2 other vacant houses. So somebody bought that house at above value in between 2 other houses that are vacant. And so I went and I found the owners to the house on the right and then to the house on the left. And over, 6-month period, I ended up flipping both of those to the same people, and they rode their first comp and made 2 other awesome comps. And so this area is exploding right now because of what they started.
So so in one neighborhood, you got all this equity, you flipped it, and then you did it 3 times. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Man, you should get an award for that from Oklahoma City for improving the value of some of these ghetto cribs. But actually, that's a really nice area. All right, let's talk about someone else that's new out there that read a book, wants to be a wholesaler. Why does everybody become wholesalers first? Do you know why?
Why do they become wholesalers first? I'd say.
Or would you recommend that?
Oh, why should they?
Yeah, should they be a wholesaler first, or what should they do?
Oh, yeah. I definitely think you should. I think wholesaling should be a rite of passage. You learn so much about life, about yourself, about real estate in general. It really vets you out if you can do this.
If you can hang on, because I don't know there's too many wholesalers that have been doing it. They come and go, they come in, they're all excited, but then there's months or weeks or years that don't even get good deals. They'll get like $1,000 here, $900 there. Speaking of deals and money, how else do you make money? I know that you partner with people, you flip contracts for people. Is there any other way to make money besides a wholesaler, or during this process? Have you made money any other way?
Well, numerous ways, I guess, but it's all real estate related. I say partnering on deals with people, helping people sell their deals.
And you just take a percentage? Do you like to work up front? I mean, you know what the margin is, and you say, hey, I want $1,000. I'll help you sell it to your buyers list because you've spent all the money with the marketing.
Yeah.
You've done that before?
Just normally, if I do any deals with any of my friends, we do 50% because, they'll bring a deal to me. They'll do 50%.
Right.
So.
And do you prefer that, working with someone, or do you like to be solo? What's your vibe, or does that change?
On a deal-by-deal basis or a partnership basis, what do you?
Well, do you prefer to handle all the deals by yourself, or do you like partnering with people? I mean, does it depend on each deal?
Yeah, partnering with people is great because they do have to work. But
sure. Well, they're supposed to.
Yeah, they're supposed to. But, ideally, my goal, my drive, my dream here is to have a team that will do part of this work for me that I can manage.
Okay.
One, it'd be a lot cheaper than 50% every single deal.
So they're like staff members, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's one of the couple big things that you've learned just recently? I know you've grown so much, and we've hanged out a couple times. And what's some realizations that you've learned so far? 2 years in, and what have you learned so far? Or what's the biggest thing that comes to your mind?
Man, the biggest thing is here recently. I've paid a chunk of change for some coaching from a guy who I've admired for a long time. His podcast was the first one I ever listened to, and he's really opened my eyes to a lot of things. One of them, most importantly, being that other people are capable of doing what you do, in place of you, as good as and a lot of times better than you, regardless of what you think. That's been revelating for me to understand that people can do things for me even better than I'm doing them.
True. So basically outsourcing or stepping to the side, and you're in the way, basically.
Yeah. I'm bottlenecking, everything I'm doing. So
because you can only be on the phone so many times.
Yep.
So many minutes and so many days.
Exactly.
Right. So I guess you could scale it with many use.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, how about what's one of the greatest things that you've learned in a transaction that you can think of?
One of the greatest things I've learned in a transaction.
Like what not to do again.
Oh, what not to do again? Oh, well, the biggest one, don't ever show a house unless you have the contract.
Lockdown?
Yeah, a lot of people, I've seen every once in a while get a little overzealous. They've got an agreement with the seller. They're waiting.
Verbally.
They're waiting to get the contract back. They've already sent it. And they go ahead and show the house to buyers. I've seen that a few times. I wrung the guys out. And I've done it myself a few times, even after seeing them fail at it.
Does someone come around there and go directly to the seller and just bypass you? Is that the negativity of it?
There's just a million things that can happen.
Like someone offers more money and then the seller gets kind of sketchy about it?
Yeah. I mean, there's that. One friend in general. One friend.
Friend? No, I was just playing. Okay.
Yeah.
You were about to say something.
No. Now, one friend I witnessed this happen to is he had a property. He was waiting to get the contract. I told him, I was like, don't you dare show that until you get this contract. He's like, he was avoiding me. He was avoiding the conversation, and he went ahead and he took the buyer by there anyways. And somebody showed up, and they said, what are you doing here? I'm buying this house. Then they called the seller, and it was a disaster.
And did that guy that showed up bought it? Was there someone more aggressive, I guess?
Yeah, the other person that showed up actually did buy the house.
And they were pissed.
Yeah,
and the wholesaler lost out in his credibility as well.
Yeah, he lost the deal. He lost his credibility. Looked like a fool in front of his buyer. Right. It was a mess.
That is a mess. I know there's one time. Well, that's another story on another day. All right, How about systems? We talk a lot about systems as friends, and at one time you had an office, right? You had a full-time assistant. You're only 24 years old? You had a full-on office, $1,000 a month rent. You had billboards out. What happened to that? Where'd that go? Or is it still going? Or did you pass it on? Or is that what you wanted to do? Let's talk about that.
Well, with that, I realized, the office space is great. You need a place where you can be and where you can have your team be, unless you're going to be virtual, where you guys can work together. But what I realized is, the office was great, but I took someone on who I did not vet. It was a friend of a friend, and it was too soon. I had no experience managing people, leading people in general, and I was more of a friend than a manager to that person. So it was,
or a boss.
Yeah, or a boss. It was imminent failure. So as soon as the lease was up and she found something else that she was going to do, we still do work together, but unofficial. She helps me with some things.
Was that hard to know that you had to guarantee someone money? Did that ever bother you?
It was kind of cool whenever I was paying her, as an independent contractor. That was cool. But, she's Hispanic and she had a work visa, and they said, you need a W-2. And that's,
oh, man, so now you have to get into the payroll?
That's where things hit the fan.
I guess they did. All of a sudden, now you an extra 10%.
Oh, man, I spent...
Federal, state, and probably accountant payroll tax.
Yeah, man, I don't know how much time I spent in the office just trying to figure that stuff out, messing with QuickBooks and
dang, you should have called me.
OEC and all this other...
But I guess because she had a work visa, you had to do that.
Yeah, and that went for about 6 months, and that's about the time the lease ended. I'm like, okay.
First of all, that girl's cool, man. I've met her. She's done some deals. She flipped the house with we flipped the house together.
Yep.
One of my first wholesale deals, and she brokered that deal. Well, she translated for us. She's an amazing woman. Yep, but it's not her. It's just the system. Yep. In place with the government and regulated and all that jazz.
Yep. She's legit. She's definitely a hustler. And about systems, that's one of my favorite subjects. I want to say if you want to be, successful in this at all, you've got to be organized. If you want to be successful and not just own your job. I've witnessed some guys who wholesale, and I was like, well, what kind of systems do you use? Do you have a contact management software? Do you use a spreadsheet? How do you keep track of things? Pulled out his phone, and he showed me the Notes app in his phone. He keeps everything in a note. I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. I used to keep things on paper, and I couldn't handle more than 2 or 3, things going on at a time, 2 or 3 transactions, whatever. But, I definitely am a big proponent of systems.
Okay, speaking of systems, walk us through a system now. Your phone rings. What do you do?
Well, my phone rings.
Do you qualify them over the phone?
It depends on the advertising. Some of it I answer, myself live. Other parts, go directly to voicemail. And so if it goes to voicemail, the message gets transcribed. It goes into my CRM. It populates, and they'll be sent an SMS, just
text message to you,
to them, saying, what? Can you tell me a little bit more about the house?
Cool.
Just. So
it's like a quick follow up. That's a great system. So they call in, leave a message, transcribes it. Boom! It automatically texts them back with asking for more questions.
Yeah.
Sweet. I like that deal.
Yeah, it's just they're hot, they're ready. It's to just keep it.
And then you just keep them engaged.
Yep.
So then you get on the phone with them eventually, or one of your team members, or...
Yeah, I'll get on there and I'll call them back, get the information and decide how to go forward from there.
Do you make an offer right then over the phone?
Not usually. I try to figure out about where they're at, see whether it's worth my time, and if I'm going to make an offer, I might do a soft offer over the phone to, test.
See where they're at?
Yeah, see where they're at.
So how would you make an offer? We're talking, it's you and I. Yeah, man, I got this house for sale. What do you say?
Well, I've now got a script, so there's going to be a lot more going into it.
Well, obviously, you try to get them to say a number, right?
Yeah. Say when we get talking about money, I'll say, so how much do you need for this house?
Well, I really don't know. My grandpa left it for me, and it's kind of dirty. I don't know. $50,000.
$50,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the best you can do?
Yeah. I really don't know a lot about real estate. I saw your sign. I figured you're successful, or you buy houses fast. I mean, I saw your billboard. I don't know. I think it's worth $50,000. How do I find out what it's worth?
Well, you can ask a real estate agent, or I can come out and make an assessment myself and tell you my opinion of value and then tell you what I'd be willing to pay for it.
Okay. Now, back to the scenario. Do you do all the research, the county, assessor? You have a general idea. So the guy says 50, the county says it's worth 50 because he looked it up on the county, because that's what idiots do. They think it's worth what the county thinks it's worth, or sellers in general. But I guess there's a starting point.
Yeah, so if they say it's worth 50, the county says it's worth 50, I'm immediately, this is not
going to work.
A good prospect, but let's figure it out whether they are or not, or whether they're just, not at the point where they understand this process. So I'd ask them, what's the condition of the property? Does it need any, repairs or improvements? Anything like that. They'll go on and tell me what it needs and say, okay, well, what would you value those at? What would it cost you to do those things?
So you get them committed to a number.
Yeah. They say, well, probably 12 to 15,000. Okay. So it's worth 50,000. You want 50,000, but it needs 15,000 in repairs, right?
Right.
Well, yeah. Okay. So would you agree that it is maybe worth 35,000 as is? Well, yeah, I guess so. Okay. Well, my process is, I make this as seamless, convenient, and easy for you as possible. I handle everything. I pay all the closing costs. I offer a great service here. If that's something that would interest you, would you be willing to give up part of your equity in that house in exchange for my services? And it's either...
That's kind of a loaded question.
It's either a yes or a no.
Cool. Okay, and so they usually say, well, yeah, I got to pay a commission for a realtor anyway.
Yeah.
So they usually say yes. They don't say no, because then they wouldn't be calling you. Correct? So you're getting them to say yes in essence?
Exactly. If you show them enough value, they'll always say yes. It's just to the point of...
I'll handle the work. I'll handle the transaction.
Yeah, so it's to the point of how far they can actually go to whether or not it is a deal for somebody. Because if it needs 15,000, it's worth 50. It's at 35. The investor just needs it at 70% less that 15. So that's the main thing is, are you willing to let go of some of your equity in exchange for my service? I'm telling you right now, I'm an investor. I'm not going to pay you top dollar. Are you okay with that?
Right. Cool. So they kind of understand that. You go out there. Have you over the phone? Have you just straight up made an offer and someone's accepted? Like, okay, I think I can do 25. You run out there and you're like, dang, this is a deal. Has it ever happened?
Yeah, that happens sometimes. And sometimes there's houses I really don't want to go look at. I really don't want to mess with. I get as much information as possible, and I'll say, I tell you what, without wasting your time or mine, I can tell you
this is a ballpark.
This is about where I'm going to be. Is that something you'd be interested in?
And what do they say?
Yay or nay? If it's a yay, okay, I have to go look at it now.
All right, so we can talk for hours, bro. I'm got 100 questions rolling in my head. Okay, So you gave me a house the other day. Okay, I went and looked at it. What do you do in a situation like that? It needs a lot of repair. Tell me about that.
That's actually a situation where I did that.
So you threw out a number.
Yeah, that's about where I got to be. And she said, yeah, we could do that. I'm like, okay, so now I have to go look at it.
Right, okay. Or you can send an investor to go look at it and kind of give you feedback. I know you leverage some of your time. I know that you call me, say, hey, man, can you look at this for me? What do you think? There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Man, what happens when you can't close? Has that happened?
If can't sell the house...
You can't flip the contract.
Oh, man.
Has that happened to you?
That's happened very, very, very few times, less than 5. But that's the worst thing that could ever happen in my mind. I don't want to fail on that seller. If I told them I'm going to do something, I want to do it.
Right. You've told me some stories where you've called someone up and you had to close tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it was you were telling me the whole story. I'm like, man, you worked that deal for 3 weeks, and how much did you make? You're like, I made $300.
Yeah.
But you're doing it in an essence of your reputation, and I've seen just ghetto wholesalers, and if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, they just burn people. The seller thinks they're going to sell this property. They think that they're going to get this money, that you're the savior, and then they leave them out to dry. Mm-hmm. And it just creates a bad reputation for bandit signs in general and people of wholesalers.
Yeah.
And do you run into those guys too? Do you try to help them, educate them?
I don't really try to educate many people. If someone asks me a question, I'll give them my opinion. But, I see where you're coming from with that. There's a lot of guys out there that don't have a lot of ethics. But
Even realtors too, man. I'm not trying to blast realtors, but I've seen some realtors do some sketchy things too. Like they took an oath to get the toppest dollar for the seller. They're working for the seller, and I've seen them go in, negotiate like a wholesaler, which is fine, and then turn around and flip it for $10,000. I mean, is that ethical? Well, I don't. Let's not get in there. I'm sorry. I apologize. All right, so we're running out of time. You're definitely going to be on the show. Like, I really want you to be a regular. I'm just stoked that you came out. So what's the future for Shawn McVicker and Shawn Buys Houses? And is there a number? Is there a transaction? I know that you want to start holding. You got 2 under your belt, or actually I think you might have some owner finance in there, but you got 2 bank loans, and you've been diligently working on your financial statement, which is, I'm just super proud of you. What's your goals? What are you trying to do now? Tell me.
The future is going to be, the premier, my company is going to be the premier Oklahoma City home buyer. There's plenty of others, but I want to be the home buyer in Oklahoma City. I want to offer the best service to the sellers and the best service to the buyers.
Cool. So do you want to eventually have like a brokerage or just straight up wholesale?
No, I don't really want to mess with a brokerage, but I do want a team that I can train to do what I do, to offer them that kind of opportunity to be in real estate, to grow.
Right on. So let's just throw out a phone number. I mean, say someone listens to this podcast today, and hopefully you share it and spread it around and tell people about it. But man, I want to be on the Shawn McVicker team. How do I get a hold of you? I mean, you can put your phone number.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Is that cool?
Yeah. I mean, if there's any wholesalers out there or anybody who wants to talk to me or see how you can work with me, just give me a shout. 405-696-0029.
Right on. All right. So you want to be the premier buyer and seller transactional individual of Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Any other aspirations outside of Oklahoma, like even Oklahoma, like Tulsa or Dallas, or have you ever looked into those markets?
Well, whenever I get things rolling here, with processes and it's running, like a machine that I can manage and not have to work myself, then I intend to take it to other markets.
Cool. Man, I seriously, I can listen to you for hours. I love that you came from nothing, from a small town, truck driver, read an ebook, has done 60 or 70. We tried to figure out the number earlier. He's just moving so fast. I know that I bought at least 10 properties from you, and I'm thankful for you because my family is profiting and my kids are eating because of the great deals. I went by Trellis the other day, and I was like, that 2-house package you got me. Mm-hmm. And, man, I appreciate you and what you do. And everyone I've ever talked to that has done transaction with you has always been pleased. I've never met anyone that said, that dude burned me. Now, there's some other wholesalers out there that, they can say that they've been burned by that individual. So keep up that integrity, Shawn. Keep up bringing joy in people's lives. And, man, if you really are serious about being in real estate, definitely start out as a wholesaler. It's not easy. It's not for the faint at heart. You have to drive. You have to make the calls. You got to make offers. You got to get rejected. You got to fail. And it's a feast or famine. And Shawn's success wasn't easy, but he was determined and he did it. And he's self-educated, and now he has a coach. He's out of state, right? So that's kind of an awkward situation too, right? You got to call him over the phone, and that's been a great process for you.
Yeah. He's really opened my eyes to a lot of different things that I need to be doing differently, and it's really going to tenfold.
Yeah. I remember when Shawn got the coach, because I do teach and coach people, and I'm always looking for stuff, and I'm like, he hired this coach, and he told me how much he paid. I was like, damn. And I was like, I need to start charging that much money. But just one session that Shawn told me that he had, I actually shared that story when I spoke in Indiana for the Mr. Landlord Conference about the peanut butter and jelly. And it was just, this is cool. Get out there, learn, ask people out to lunch or dinner, get to know people, grow, and build financial freedom. Shawn, it's been a pleasure. I'm so stoked that you're here. What's your phone number one more time?
405-696-0029.
Awesome. Have a great day, man. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.